And chat. How's it going, guys? Welcome back after a few months to Root Double Before Crime After Days. Let's just jump right back in. Transcending reality. Alright. Yes, that was the last one. Right, Route D. Let's go. Remember that H will show you the hotkeys. That is true. Let's remind ourselves. G is tips. Tips is the only one I need. Natsuhiko returns to reality. Are you okay, Hikarin? Natsuhiko heard Yuri's voice, but his vision was still blurry, for in his eyes were tears. Yuri. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for deceiving you all this time. Yuri said the same words she did back then. Please, please don't say you've deceived me. Natsuhiko had been free for 9 years in exchange for Yuri's confinement. It was an unbearable truth for him. Damn it, what the hell's wrong with me? For years and years I've been protected by the girls precious to me. And I took it all for granted without ever realizing how much they sacrificed for me. Natsuhiko was tormented by bitterness and shame. How can you be so nice to me? Huh? Even though it's my fault you've wasted 9 years of your life. You never held a grudge, you never complained, and even today you worked hard to save me. Why? How can you go so far to do all that for someone like me? Why can't you put more value in yourself? Yuri calmly answered. Hikarin, you see, I thought I would be trapped in here for my entire life. So I thought it'd be for the best if you forgot about me and lived a happy life with Mashiron. That's what I believed. That's really all there is to it. Yeah, I'm still a little disappointed that this isn't a Yuri Tulpa. Oh my god. I've had so many theories about this game, and they've all turned out to be relatively mundane things as the answer. That's what I believed. That's really all there is to it. Yuri gave a lonely smile, as if she had given up on something she had long thought to be precious. When he saw that look in her face, Natsuhiko understood her feelings. I see. Yuri had given up. To survive her hopeless days, she gave up every hope of her own future. But that was not something that a normal person could withstand. In her heart of hearts, Yuri must have wanted to be saved. After all, she did ask me to save her. She asked me, and not anyone else. And she had appeared before him and made him look into his own mind. She may not have realized it herself, but there was, perhaps, a slight gap in her reasoning. But Natsuhiko couldn't overlook that. Others might overlook it, but there's no way I could. Natsuhiko wiped his tears and gazed at Yuri. Say, Yuri, do you think lost time can be recovered? That's impossible. Even if you change memories, you can't change the truth. That was an obvious answer, but not one Natsuhiko could approve of. No, even so, I'll still do it. Huh? I swear I'll recover the time you've lost. You say you'll spend the rest of your life imprisoned in this place? That's ridiculous. That can't be allowed to stand. I swear I'll free you, even if it costs me my life. Even if it costs you your life? No! If you die, then what will I have spent all those 9 years trying to save you for? A little bit of spine. Please, allow me to do at least that. I really enjoyed meeting you and spending all that time with you up until today. If you're telling me that it was all a lie, then I'll just turn that lie into the truth. If you say you were a phantom, then I'll change you into reality. That was the one thing he could do for Yuri. The only way he could repay her for protecting her all these 9 years. You mean for protecting him? Let's escape from this facility alive, Yuri. Because I'm sure that's what you really want. Yuri's eyes widened. But eventually, her surprise was painted over with the colors of joy and relief. Yes. That one word signified the sentiment she had locked away in her heart for 9 years, her hope for freedom. Natsuhiko nodded firmly and continued. All right, but there's a lot we've got to do before that. I actually really like this track in particular. Excuse me. You're right. First, we need to save Mashiro, right? Yeah, hopefully she's okay. If you're worried, then why don't you use Sense of Sympathy on Captain Kasasagi one more time? Huh? You can use Sense of Sympathy long distance? Similar to telepathy and empathy, Sense of Sympathy obviously had a usable range of its own. And considering how empathy's range was narrower than telepathy's, Natsuhiko logically concluded that Sense of Sympathy would be even narrower. But it is true that you need to be nearly touching when you dive into someone's mind the first time. But minds that have connected in the past can connect more easily, even from a distance. That said, it's still about the same range as empathy, though. Is that how it works? Unlocked 50% of tips. What's a tip I unlocked? The achievement blocked it! Oh no! Is it the melt effect? It's called the melt effect. When you use Sense of Sympathy on someone, part of your minds melt together, making subsequent uses remarkably easier. When you came to Labo this morning, I was able to connect to your mind even when you were far away, remember? Now that you mention it, you're right. And what's more, you've been sympathizing with Captain Kasasagi's mind for hours upon hours, haven't you? So I'm sure you should be able to connect to his mind whenever you want now. I see. Having his mind melted together with Watase's wasn't exactly a pleasant thought, but the ability to sympathize with his senses at will was quite convenient. Got it. I'll give it a shot. Natsuhiko said that to Yuri as he attempted using Sense of Sympathy on Watase. Where is he now, and what's he doing? Has he reached Mashiro yet? Natsuhiko's 5 senses dampened, and in its place came the sights that Watase saw. While Natsuhiko and Yuri were talking, Watase was concealing himself in the darkness. Man, how's Watase going to convince Mashiro to go with him? He'd heard someone's footsteps on his way to the factory and had quickly found a place to hide. Damn it, who's there? He couldn't tell whose footsteps they were. Were they Ukita's, June's, Kazumi's, or... No, it's too dangerous for me to bump into anyone right now, no matter who they are. Watase held his breath and waited for that person to leave. Do we get to see who it is? It didn't take long before the footsteps grew fainter and fainter, then disappeared completely. Phew! Watase breathed a sigh of relief. If someone spotted him, then it'd cause all sorts of problems with bringing Mashiro Toba back to the secret room. I have to save that Mashiro girl as fast as I can. Watase broke off into a dash while keeping his guard up. He headed for the cargo lift room in the corner of the factory. But once he made it there, what he found left him stunned. Oh no, is that a blast shield or something? No way. How did... Very little had changed about the room since the last time he'd been there. But there was one part about it that was strange. Very strange. Or rather, it was the lack of something that was strange. Oh, the little girl is gone. The girl who'd been lying by the lift. Was she a hallucination? The same girl who'd been confirmed dead after Kazumi and June's failed CPR attempts was gone. Where did her body go? With this being the second dead body that had vanished on him that day, Watase just stood, frozen in complete shock. Chapter 2. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. chapter. 2 hours and 33 minutes until lockdown is lifted. The body had vanished. Phantom of the nightmare. Watase was momentarily frozen in confusion in the face of that bizarre phenomenon happening to him again. But, calm down. Maybe someone just moved the body to another location, that's all. But if that were true, then who would do something like that? Kazumi? June? Ukita? Or... No amount of thinking could bring Watase to the truth. No, now's not the time for this. My top priority right now needs to be finding that Mashiro girl and saving her. Watase then pushed his thoughts aside. He walked over to the lift's control panel and tried repairing it. So first I should put this here. Watase went through a whole process of trial and error, figuring out how the part he got from Natsuhiko connected with the broken panel on the wall. No, maybe that's not it. I've got to take these wires and connect them to this. This is the open button, so this must be the close button. Tips to read from Chapter 1. Okay. Let's read them. Tips. BC particles, denial syndrome, melt effect, sense of sympathy. Okay. Alright, sense of sympathy. The third BC ability, hidden from public knowledge. It is a dangerous ability where the Esper reads the senses and BC energy frequency of the target and synchronizes them with their own, allowing the Esper to emulate the target's consciousness. The Esper is given real-time access to the target's memories, emotions, qualia, and point of view, among other things. Additionally, by manipulating the target's intracerebral M particles, the Esper can twist and erase the target's memories at will. Furthermore, forced synchronization of the senses and frequencies puts the target in a false state of an open heart, meaning that, unlike with empathy, the Esper is not limited to targets who open their hearts to them. When senses sympathy is in use, the Esper's senses dampen considerably, and since they make their BC energy frequency match that of the target, the Esper's identity is at risk of collapse. Overuse of the ability dramatically increases the risk of enification. Thus, use of the ability poses major problems for both Esper and target alike. At present, little is known as to how to use the ability both safely and effectively. Enification. As a result, the government continues to hide the ability's existence from the general public to prevent needless discrimination and panic. As a digression, the act of using senses sympathy to read and influence the content of a target's memories is called RAM by certain BC researchers. RAM equals rewrite/addition to memory. RAM also refers to a computer's main memory, random access memory. Simply put, it is storage space for a computer's short-term memories. RAM is equipped on not just personal computers, but things like home video game consoles as well. The specialists who named the communicator's RAM process perhaps deliberately named it for its similarity to how a computer accesses and modifies information in memory in real time. Okay, let's see. All right, BC. Short for beyond communication. A means of communicating intentions to information in its pure form via atmospheric BC particles without using words as an intermediary. In the past, BC was called extrasensory perception, or ESP, but after the 2014 Andressi witch hunt, its existence was brought to light, and BC was rapidly clarified and systematized. People with BC abilities are called communicators. There are 3 documented BC abilities. Conveying one's intention to others is called telepathy. Reading the minds of others is called empathy. Synchronizing with the minds of others is called senses sympathy, but knowledge of this ability is hidden from the general public. In the communicator-exclusive school, Rokame Academy, the curriculum is tailored for the development of these abilities. However, since BC usage somewhat dampens the user's senses, students are guided to maintain a reasonable range when using the abilities on campus. The extent of results a particular communicator can expect to achieve through training can be estimated through their aptitude rank. However, there is no effective means of measuring ability level without reliance on self-reporting. So much is uncertain about BC that some experts even deem it to have the power to glimpse into another world. It will probably take some time before proper standardized methods of training and developing these abilities are established. Okay, now BC particles, denial syndrome, and melt effect. One sec. BC particles. A general term for the 4 kinds of information-containing particles that fill the human brain. Since human thought is a type of information, these BC particles themselves are the source of human consciousness. In other words, the spirit lies within these particles. M particles, M fermions. A new type of Fermi particle that takes on BC energy interactions. Since these particles form human thought, they are named M for mind. 2 of the fundamental interactions, the strong force and the weak force, do not affect these particles. These particles require high levels of energy to remain stable. While they may be safe inside the treasure trove of information that is the brain, M particles immediately decay into W particles after leaving the brain. This is why ordinary people cannot relay thoughts without using an intermediary like speech or writing. Only communicators can use BC to convert W particles into M particles intracerebrally. It is very amusing that human brains in the Root Double universe are actively radioactive. W particles, W fermions. A new type of Fermi particle, even smaller than the tiny neutrino. With a low energy state, W particles are unaffected by gravitational, strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces, and thus have yet to be discovered. But how do they have so much science on them if they've yet to be discovered? The W stands for wanderer, as W particles drift through the air without information. While W particles cannot reproduce information by themselves, a communicator can load them with information similar to human mental activity, like consciousness, intentions, or thoughts, converting the W particles into high-energy state M particles, otherwise WX particles. In this state, they are now affected by electromagnetic forces. See, this doesn't make any sense, or at least the way M and W particles work doesn't make any sense as far as telepathy works in this universe. Because turning W particles into M particles and sending them out, That makes sense that you can project your thoughts and emotions into somebody else's brain. But I guess turning the W particles in between your brain and the target's brain into M particles but they wouldn't recover their information. Would it let on the target brain emit M particles in the direction of you if you convert the W particles in between you into M particles? Because, like, if they decay into W particles as soon as they leave the brain, they lose all information and are blank, even if you turn them back into M particles. So, like, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe the other particle types will explain it. B particles, B boson. Bosonic particles that transmit BC energy, information volume. The informational field hypothesis proposed the existence of such particles, but just like gravitons, they have not yet been observed. One of the components of the hypothesis that cannot escape the limitations of a hypothesis. Incidentally, the fundamental process of BC energy generation uses the internal heat energy of the body. The existence of high metabolism heavy eaters who stay thin, communicator and non-communicator alike, can perhaps partially be explained due to this property. That's silly. WX particles. Artificially amplified W particles. The X stands for extreme. These particles have surpassed the energy threshold for becoming M particles, but lack any information meaningful to humans, which is where the distinction is drawn. When a communicator uses WX particles to produce M particles, the resulting particles take longer to decay than if they had used W particles instead. In effect, a WX particle-rich environment increases effective BC range. However, WX particles have been proven to be harmful to the body, and thus extended exposure to fixed amounts can cause brain dysfunction, genetic disorders, and cancer, while acute exposure can cause sensory abnormalities, nausea, and hazy consciousness. All right, denial syndrome and melt effect. In 1908, French neuroscientist Joseph-François Babinski discovered that among patients who were paralyzed on the left half of the body due to injury to the right parietal lobe of the brain, some who were otherwise mentally sound were unaware of their own condition and would deny or ignore any attempts to make them aware of their condition. Perhaps as the result of a sort of psychological defense function's overcompensation to maintain mental peace. When Natsuhiko's memories were falsified with senses sympathy and he began to see Yuri's phantom, he unconsciously rationalized all the contradictions in her daily life. Which means, even though he wasn't conscious of it, he understood somewhere in the back of his head that Yuri was gone. His newly rank S aptitude mind was probably filled with high-purity M particles loaded with his emotions for Yuri. Opposing those feelings was the fear of learning the truth, which perhaps contributed to why his BC abilities had remained dormant for so long. And melt syndrome. Oh, there's only one Bayo Bayo episode commentary. Cool. Melt effect. Sensus sympathy must be used at point-blank range in order to achieve sympathy between the espers and the target's senses. This is due to the high volumes of information that must be exchanged by loading them onto M particles, which decay with distance. However, after a communicator's brain remembers using sensus sympathy on someone once, that communicator can subsequently use sensus sympathy on the same target from longer distances. This is called the melt effect. The extended range is roughly equal to the communicator's effective range of empathy. Cool. He manually connected the torn-off wires and kept clicking the button over and over again, and soon enough... Oh! He heard the control panel beep, followed by the sound of the lift going down. I did it! Watase found himself instinctively pumping his fist triumphantly. I just hope that I'll find Mashiro Toba in there when these doors open. This is the only place I haven't looked yet, after all. Please, be in there. The sound of the lift descending filled Watase's ears as he thought that. Well, she's dead. And when the doors opened... Okay, well, at least she's unconscious, so he can get her back to the secret room without her fighting him. He found himself faced with a lone girl lying there. Huh? What the... Hey! Watase ran over to her as horror filled him. The last survivor had indeed been on the lift, but she was horribly injured. Hey, are you okay? The girl's face was so pale that it almost distracted him from the blood pouring down her arm. She didn't respond to Watase's cries. It's been hours! The bleeding should have stopped by now. But he could tell that she still had a pulse and was breathing, though both were faint. Is she unconscious? Now that he looked closer, her face looked familiar. She was the girl who he'd seen with Natsuhiko on that footage they'd found in the surveillance room several hours back. There's no doubt about it. This is Mashiro Toba. But unlike the healthy, uninjured girl he'd seen in the footage, this one looked like she was a step away from death. What in the world happened to her? And just as he had that thought, a bizarre image flashed through his brain. It burns. Huh? What is this? No, it burns. It hurts. Natsuhiko! Are you okay, Mashiro? I'll treat it right. Guess it's harder to hit a moving target than you'd think. The sudden images and voices that played back in his head sent tremors running through Watase's body. That was... He'd first seen a boy and girl running off somewhere through a security gate. But what directly followed that image was a dry sound. After that came a man's voice. Guess it's harder to hit a moving target than you'd think. That voice, it had sounded a lot like Watase's voice. What's the meaning of this? Why would I do something so horrible? It's like I'm... But before Watase's horrifying train of thought could continue, he was interrupted. Watase! This time, the auditory hallucination echoed through his head. Calm down. That girl's gonna die. Rescue her and get back to the shelter. Look, you're a rescue worker, aren't you? Then accomplish your mission, damn it. Right. Watase did his best to curb his bewilderment and managed to somehow pull himself together. That's right. I'll save this girl. There's no way in hell I can let her die on me. Not on my watch. He distracted himself from his earlier thoughts with this self-persuasion and kept repeating it in his mind over and over again. He then walked up to Mashiro and lifted her in his arms. There, that's more like it. The auditory hallucination sounded relieved. Watase said nothing and rushed out of the cargo lift room while carrying Mashiro on his back. He first made a stop at the Area 5 infirmary. She's probably not going to make it without a transfusion. Please tell me there's another transfusion kit here. He searched the room to find there was exactly one other kit left. So none for Salu. He put it in his pocket and then carried blood packs under his arms, one of each blood type. If he could, he'd treat her here, but that was too dangerous. It was likely he'd be attacked by Jun, Ukita, or Kazumi if he stayed. Then going back to the shelter is the best move. It's the safest place we've got. Watase propped Mashiro up on his back again and left the infirmary. He carefully made his way to the shelter while keeping a close eye out for Ukita, Jun, and Kazumi. He soon made it back to the keypad. Natsuhiko, can you hear me? It's me, Kasasagi, open up. He pounded on the door and shouted, and soon enough, the wall slid open, revealing the iron door. His return to the shelter was immediately followed by Yuri crying out, "Mashiron!" She cried out what seemed to be a nickname for Mashiro and ran over to them. It looked like Mashiro was another friend of Yuri's. "Captain Kasasagi, Mashiro's gone completely limp." "It's okay, she's just passed out." Watase laid Mashiro on the floor and gave that reply. Man, the translation for this game is a little awkward. Where it so often has a line followed by character said that in some variation. And that's just not how English dialogue and narration and writing work. And it's bothered me since I started this game. Watase laid Mashiro on the floor and gave that reply. It's a bit too much of a direct translation, yeah. It's possibly somebody with Japanese as a first language translating it into English. That or a bad English translation team. Well, not the worst English translation team. It's a simple mistake, but still not the best. But her arms hurt pretty badly. She might have lost too much blood. It looks like she was stuck in the lift for hours without treatment. Natsuhiko glared at Watase and spoke in a low voice. "Yeah, that wound does look pretty bad, huh? Oof. Yeah, I've got to give her a transfusion right away, or else. Do either of you know her blood type?" "She's B+. That's what she told me, at least. Or B positive, I guess. It was a Kickstarted funded project that only slightly got past its goals, so I'd probably guess they only had enough to do this type and nothing fancier. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, then B positive it is." Watase read the instruction manual that came with the transfusion kit as he checked her for any acute reactions. Then he managed to start giving Mashiro the transfusion. Phew, guess she's okay for now. Watase sighed. Matsuhiko then called out to him in a restrained voice. "Like hell she's okay." "Huh? Look at how badly hurt she is. How the hell can you call that okay?" "Well, it's all relative, Natsuhiko. How do you plan on taking responsibility if something happens to her?" Watase was confused by Natsuhiko's abrupt outburst. Is he mad that I took my time setting up the transfusion? No, he's about to spill that you're the one who shot her. But it was at that moment that it hit him. He'd heard that rough, impatient tone in Natsuhiko's voice somewhere before. In his head! Very recently, in fact. It was much like the tone of the auditory hallucination. A flash like lightning zapped through Watase's head when that thought hit him. Huh? Hold on, didn't Teach say... Wait, don't tell me. Watase felt shivers down his spine. But he kept that nagging suspicion locked away for the time being and apologized to Natsuhiko. I'm sorry. I should have been taking this more seriously. No, it's okay. But her wounds don't look as serious as yours. I can't say this for certain, but I think she'll be fine if we just keep her hooked up to the kit. Yeah, uh-oh. Right. Natsuhiko clearly wasn't fully placated, but he backed down. Once he'd confirmed that, Watase then quietly voiced the revelation that had just hit him. By the way, can I ask you something, Natsuhiko? Huh? Well, thing is, I already talked about this with Yuri, but I've been hearing this auditory hallucination from time to time, ever since I woke up in this facility. He's on to you, Natsuhiko. But the impression I got from it is very similar to the impression I get of you whenever you talk. though it's not something I can really explain with words. What are you implying? Well, it's about this thing Teach told me about. You guys can use telepathy, can't you? Was the auditory hallucination I've been hearing this whole time just you using telepathy? Watase told his suspicions to Natsuhiko in one quick swoop. A mysterious fear welled up within him as he did so. But Natsuhiko shook his head with a straight face. You think I was sending you telepathy? Of course not. Not a chance. I mean, I was out cold in Area N the whole time, right? Well, yeah, that's true, but... Besides, why would I ever do that in the first place? I don't know what's causing your auditory hallucinations, but I know that they have nothing to do with me. That is a bald-faced lie. We'll see if it sticks. I see. Deep down, he didn't fully believe Natsuhiko, but he had no choice but to back off. If he kept pressing Natsuhiko on this, he'd think he was a nut. Sorry for making things weird with that dumb question. Let's change the topic. Yes, I think that would be for the best. I was going to talk to you about what our next course of action should be. Natsuhiko interrupted before Watase could finish. Could you bring Salu here? No, probably not. There's a possibility she's still lying unconscious at the bottom of those stairs Miss Tachibana threw her down. Salu? Oh, well, I don't mind, but... You see, the thing is, that girl literally wants to kill me. He couldn't let Natsuhiko know why that was. He still didn't want to believe what she'd said back at the bulkhead. So she might go crazy on me again if I try to get her. But there's a good chance she's still out cold, and besides, she'll calm down if you bring her to me. What if we bring you to her, Natsuhiko? She's my friend. I'm sure she won't attack you if I tell her not to. Is that right? To be honest, he still felt rather reluctant to do so, but he'd feel awkward about leaving Salu the way she was. Captain Kasasagi, I'd really appreciate it too. Please bring Salu back here safely. Okay, leave it to me. Watase put on a brave face and left the shelter. Even after Watase had left the shelter, Natsuhiko glared at the shut door for a while. Yuri accosted him. Hikarin, why did you talk like that to Captain Kasasagi? I'm sorry, I lost my temper. When I saw how badly injured Mashiro was, I just couldn't forgive Watase for it. Huh? So Mashiro's injuries really were because of Captain Kasasagi? Yeah, Watase shot her before he lost his memories. Natsuhiko gave Yuri a summary of the events that led him up to here. Man, having to work with and manipulate the amnesiac assassin who tried to kill you is a hell of a situation for these kids to be in. Excuse me. Natsuhiko gave Yuri a summary of the events that led him up to here. After Yuri erased her phantom, Watase caught up to Mashiro and Natsuhiko and shot them. Yes, I was there. No more flashbacks. At the end of that struggle, Natsuhiko passed out in Area N. Afterwards, he saw the 6-hour escape drama through Watase's 5 senses. Once Yuri had heard the entire story, she spoke painfully. So that's what happened. Yeah. So I know the current amnesiac Watase is almost like a completely different person from the pre-amnesiac Watase, but I really still can't find it in me to forgive him. It tore his heart apart to look at Mashiro's pale face as she lay on the ground. It seemed that Mashiro had used up the last remaining bit of her strength to send that final telepathy. She had probably passed out as soon as she finished communicating with Natsuhiko. Please be okay. Please wake up. Yes. Natsuhiko and Yuri held Mashiro's hands and prayed. But they couldn't spend all their time praying. Natsuhiko was worried about Mashiro, but there were many things he needed to confirm if he wanted to escape outside with her. Hey, Yuri. Mashiro and I know next to nothing about Labo. We don't know the true meaning behind what happened here today. But Yuri, you've been here in Labo, so do you know anything about what's going on? When he saw Yuri's memories, he learned that Labo was a BC research facility. But there were still many mysteries left unsolved. What was that thing in Area N, that WX particle amplifier? If there's no nuclear reactor, then what's spreading through the facility? Yeah, let's get into the meat of it! What's the phenomenon that they've been calling a meltdown? What does the Procyon really measure? Exactly what kind of drug is AD actually? Questions to answer! Da-dum-bum-bum. I've come up with several questions, but do you know any of the answers, Yuri? Yuri softly nodded. Yes, I know everything. I've seen everything. I've learned all sorts of things through my 9-year stay at Labo, including truths that have been withheld from society and things I would rather not have known. Once you know the truth, there might be no going back, okay? Are you still sure you want to know? He kinda has to. Fine by me. Tell me, Yuri. Tell me what exactly is going on here, without a flashback if possible. Well, I guess this flashback would be okay. Oh no, I've jinxed myself. Yuri quietly began to answer Natsuhiko's question. I'll take it all one thing at a time, okay? First, I'll tell you exactly what a WX particle is. But before I get into that, you do know what BC particles are, right, Hikarin? Huh? Yeah. Now that she mentioned it, you remember what he learned from a class they had earlier. The BC particle, that's the general term for the elementary particle related to the use of BC. God, I forgot how stacked Enna was. They're elementary particles that are molded and transmitted by the brain activity of all living animals, and thus humans. First of all, these BC particles I've mentioned fill our surroundings and have the capability to move through all matter. Which of course includes your skulls and your brains within. Also, brain activity itself is thought information, which is generated by the brain's electrical signals. This thought information is transmittable to the outside. I know, but what about them? It was right after he said those words that Natsuhiko picked up on Yuri's implication. Labo is a BC research facility, so for her to bring up BC particles meant WX particles are a type of BC particle. The amount of information, that is to say, the amount of energy transmitted by BC particles, normally increases when a communicator uses BC, but the WX particle amplifier can mechanically amplify that energy, even in the absence of a communicator. The BC particles are put into a state of blank information, but extremely high energy, which gives them distinct properties. In this state, they're called W-extreme particles, or WX particles for short. Now that she mentioned it, Natsuhiko's mother did talk about something like that in Yuri's memories. Yeah, capitalizing the X in extreme like it's a 1990s Mountain Dew commercial. Excuse me. She'd said that BC particles written with information were called M particles. Particles not written with information were called W particles. For what Natsuhiko could surmise, it appeared that WX particles were derived from W particles. When you say they have distinct properties, what exactly do you mean? First of all, in conditions where WX particles are spread about, the efficiency of BC usage rapidly increases. For example, they amplify even the weakest of telepathy to strong telepathy. They also allow BC to be used continuously for an extended amount of time. For example, Hikarin, even though today was the first time you used Sense's sympathy, you were able to remain connected to Captain Kasasagi for over 6 hours, right? Now that she mentioned it, it was quite an amazing feat for him to have pulled off. Especially considering how it took Yuri an entire month of training as a child to obtain the same ability Natsuhiko obtained in a flash. Natsuhiko's BC ability did indeed advance rapidly, but apparently he had at least some backing from these WX particles. Labo used the WX particle amplifier to conduct various research and development relating to BC abilities. But you see, it's difficult to use that machine. Machine operation and energy management must be controlled via supercomputer. But today, they lost control of it. Was it hacked? The WX particle amplifier went haywire. Haywire? Why? Yuri quietly nodded. I don't know the cause, but an abnormal situation arose where WX particle generation continued for hours. That is the truth behind what's going on in this facility. Maybe it was the bombs? No, the emergency and evacuation started before the bombs went off, I think. Then the bombs went off. Wait, okay, what's the timeline? There's the evacuation start, there's the case N that locks everything down, and then there's the bombs going off. What order did those happen in? It's been a few months. It's been a lot of months, because that was last seen in Route B. That is the truth behind what's going on in this facility. Meltdown Part 2 has been added. The phenomenon labeled a meltdown was the unbridled generation of WX particles which spread throughout the facility. Yeah, no, it's a... If it's not caused by the bombs, it's almost definitely Ukita. Though Enna is suspicious. So that's what it was. So it really wasn't a nuclear reactor meltdown at all. It was apparently just a one-word shorthand for extremely high-energy BC particle proliferation. So then the Procyon's readings are actually a measurement of BC particle energy? That's correct, Hikarin. The Procyon isn't an instrument for measuring radiation exposure, but BC energy, which is still radiation. Let's be real. It's a device that measures and quantifies the amount of energy in the BC and WX particles in that area. MSV has been added. Didn't I get that tip a year ago? Incidentally, MSV doesn't stand for millisieverts in this case. Rather, it stands for milliscalar value. Ah, okay, that's why it's a new tip. A unit of information energy contained in BC particles. As he listened to Yuri's explanation, Natsuhiko gradually understood more and more about Labo. Labo wasn't merely misrepresenting itself as a nuclear power research institution in name. Several parts of their research coincided with nuclear power science here and there. Was the identical abbreviation intentional, or just a coincidence? It was intentional, of course, to obscure what was actually going on. Everything that could potentially be handed over to third parties, like the Procyon and AD, were designed to be disguised as things relating to nuclear power. All as part of the efforts that went into hiding the truth of Labo from society. Now that Natsuhiko thought about it, that was right. There were probably several more similar countermeasures against industrial espionage in place, such as the use of several secret code words like Case N, Meltdown, and AD. Labo had been carefully hiding its true nature in consideration of worst-case scenarios like this one. let's get back on topic. If the Procyon is a BC energy measuring instrument, then what's AD? AD is a drug that absorbs and neutralizes BC particle energy. Shouldn't that shut down your brain then? Wait, hang on. It just occurred to me. If thought information is BC particles, shouldn't AD shut down your brain? As for its effects, first, it prevents you from using BC. Second, it prevents other people's BC from affecting you. In other words, it's a drug that protects your mind and body from other people's BC at the cost of your own. That's what AD is. I see. So that's what happened to me back then. Natsuhiko remembered. When his mind was connected to Watase's, Natsuhiko would sink into the darkness whenever Watase injected himself with AD. It wasn't that Natsuhiko's sensations would cut off. It was that Watase, the BC target, would become temporarily immune to the effects of BC. Natsuhiko's mind would try to connect with Watase's, but AD would reject it. As a result, Natsuhiko would be unable to receive any of the information that Watase's mind was supposed to be sending. And so, without any information, Natsuhiko would be thrown into the darkness. Is it true that its effective period is an hour? It is. So is the fact that AD is effective in environments under 4000 MSV. Conversely speaking, that means that when BC energy surpasses 4000 MSV, the effects of AD disappear. You're once again prone to the influence of other people's BC, and if you're a communicator, you can use BC again as well. Which is why you escaped into the contaminated zones earlier, because you wanted to use BC again. That would explain why Natsuhiko's consciousness returned every time Watase went into a contaminated zone. And how the two of them remained constantly connected once the facility's MSV value rose past 4000 MSV. Both were a result of the conflict between BC, the power to connect people, and AD, the drug that resists the power. But now that you mention it, what is it? Why was the amount of energy in the facility gradually rising? BC insulator. Well, you see, that's because the BC insulator could no longer keep absorbing the WX particle energy. Huh? Natsuhiko knew about BC insulators. He'd even had a conversation about them with Salu just a few days ago. Why do we have to move to a specialized classroom for BC classes? The BC room's walls are made with a BC insulator, a special building material meant to block out BC. As Natsuhiko remembered that exchange, Yori continued. Actually, all the walls and security gates in this facility are made with BC insulators. You know how BC insulators obstruct BC? They do that by absorbing the energy from BC particles. WX particles are a subclass of BC particles, so they're no exception. The energy from the WX particles generated in Area N is being absorbed by the surrounding walls and security gates. But there's a limit to how much they can absorb. If they're continuously exposed to WX particles, their absorptivity gradually wears down. As the absorptivity decreases, the amount of energy from the WX particles leaking out of Area N increases proportionally. Oh, I just noticed, 24 hours until Path of Exile 2. Oh, I cannot wait. One more sleep to PoE 2. We're almost there. Which is why the Procyon's value has been gradually rising. And what's with the disparity in values across the areas? Why did places like Area 4 have higher values than other areas? Probably because the fires and explosions here and there caused damage to the BC insulators, I guess? The insulators in the more heavily damaged areas suffered further decreased absorptivity, causing WX particle energy to rise even further. Now that Natsuhiko thought about it, that did sound plausible. B2 of Area 4, the most heavily contaminated area, had been horribly damaged by fire. Considering how much it had burned, a good majority of the insulator must have been damaged. The next highly contaminated area, B2 of Area 5, was right next to Area 4, and so the contamination may have spread all the way over there. There was no definitive proof, but Yuri's conjecture seemed plausible enough. Wow, Yuri, you seem to know just about everything about this facility. Well, I have lived here for over 9 years, after all. It's only natural that I know a lot. Though I may have been locked up in here, it is technically where I live. I have grown a little attached to it. Yuri gave an ambivalent smile. Her smile pained Natsuhiko's heart as he asked more questions. Thanks to you, I now understand more or less what Labo is and what WX particles are, but there's another important thing. What are the dangers of WX particles? The amplifier's manual said that WX particles were harmful to the body. Alright, so we're just getting a rehash of what's in the tip. And when Watase and the others went somewhere with a high procyon reading, they displayed strange symptoms. Natsuhiko recalled the contents of the manual that Watase and Kazumi had found in the engine room. It had said the following. The properties of WX particles have extremely harmful effects to the body. Examples of this include dysesthesia, brain dysfunctions, genetic abnormalities, etc. The symptoms are dependent on the level of particle energy, as listed below. WX Particle Amplifier Operation Manual. Introduction. This document is an instruction manual for the WX particle amplifier. Due to the fact that there is great danger involved in its operation, please read the manual carefully before you proceed. Furthermore, the properties of WX particles have extremely harmful effects to... Oh shit. I'm bleeding. I'll read this screen and then I'm going to go... Hang on, I'm bleeding from my calf. Okay. Harmful effects to the body. Examples of this include dysesthesia, brain dysfunctions, genetic abnormalities, etc. The symptoms are dependent on the level of particle energy, as listed below. Alright, be right back. Seems I scratched my itch too hard. That's annoying. Oh, I'm still bleeding. Hang on, I'm gonna go put a band-aid on. Okay, back. And continue. Without AD, 0 MSV to 2000 MSV, no effects. 2000 to 4000, dysesthesia, nausea, headaches, genetic abnormalities. 4000 to 8000, brain dysfunctions, faint consciousness. 8000, unconsciousness. The intensity and probability of displaying aforementioned symptoms vary depending on the energy levels. With AD, 0 to 6000, no effects. 6000 to 8000, dysesthesia, nausea, headaches, genetic abnormalities. 8000 to 12,000, brain dysfunctions, faint consciousness. 12,000 MSV, unconsciousness. AD adds up to 4,000 MSV of protection, hence the increased levels. When using the amplifier normally, the particle energy levels should not exceed 2000 MSV. When used for advanced experiments, the particle energy levels should not exceed 4000 MSV. Hey, Yuri, is it true that WX particles cause brain dysfunction and cancer? Yes, they may not be radioactive, but they are still dangerous nonetheless. WX particles with enormous amounts of energy enter and affect the brain, causing various brain dysfunctions. Furthermore, they can also affect the genes, causing mutations and cancer. Perhaps that's why even Mr. Ukita was afraid of the values increasing, despite how he should be fully aware of the facility's true nature. That in itself wasn't strange. What truly was strange was... But then how come I didn't suffer any negative effects from staying in Area N for so long? I'm still perfectly fine now, and you seem fine to me too. They're psychic mushrooms! I was right about that at least. I don't think I've gotten any genetic disorders or brain dysfunction, but why's that? Melancholy shrouded Yuri's face when she heard Natsuhiko's question. We're okay, Hikarin. You and I are the only ones trapped in this place who will remain unaffected, no matter how high the WX particle reading gets. Even Mashiro? It's because we have rank S aptitude, you see. What does that have to do with it? The truth is, the negative effects of WX particles occur more easily the lower your BC aptitude is. That's because WX particle resistance is proportional to BC aptitude. People with rank F aptitude have no resistance to WX particles whatsoever, but those of us with rank S aptitude have complete resistance. Our brains and genes are unaffected by the effects of WX particles. It's because of what happened 9 years ago that we became like this. Huh? 9 years ago? So you mean the reason our aptitudes rose so high had something to do with WX particles? Yuri nodded. When WX particles contact the human body, they first cause a strong influence on the brain, causing various functional disorders. The headaches and vomiting are a result of those disorders. The same goes for the numbness of skin and other symptoms. When the particles come in contact with genes, they damage them. They damage genes? Yes. Though many other things besides WX particles have that effect, such as radiation, particle beams, and electromagnetic waves. Imagine someone stealing AD and learning the hard way that it does not, in fact, deal with nuclear radiation. Yeah, that'd be an unpleasant surprise. In any case, once gene damage occurs, the body quickly works to repair that damage. Prolonged exposure to WX particles can overwhelm the repair process, causing fatal damage, but with the endless cycles of damage and repair, the human body has, on rare occasions, gained resistance to WX particles. The brain also changes accordingly, and the functional disorders cease. And as resistance rises, aptitude rises in proportion. That was the process both your body and mine underwent when our aptitudes rose to rank S 9 years ago. I see. Well, that finally puts that old mystery to rest. Normally, aptitude doesn't change throughout one's lifetime. But Natsuhiko and Yuri were an exception, because their bodies were flooded with WX particles during the fire 9 years ago. Here's a bitter complaint I have about this game. Not only does it constantly restate information that we've received in the past that we should remember and understand from the dialogue that we've already had, it restates things we were just told 5 seconds ago. And I hate that in a piece of media. So that's why you didn't like taking AD, huh? Because you didn't need it to begin with, and all it did was prevent you from using BC. Yes. So if the two of us go to Area N, we won't get cancer or anything? Right. As in, we won't get any worse than we already are, that is. Do we have brain cancer? Huh? Natsuhiko had a terrifying feeling about what she was implying. For he felt that Yuri was trying to tell him about the real danger of WX particles. Any worse than we already are? What do you mean? Think carefully about what I just said, okay? Having high aptitude means your genes have changed so that you can withstand an environment that normal people cannot. Your genes have gone through endless cycles of damage and repair, bringing them further and further away from their original form. Are you saying we're no longer human? I don't think that's true. Even if you had huge genetic shifts from human baseline, you're still human. So in other words, stay calm and listen closely, Hikari. You and I already have considerable genetic abnormalities. You may even go so far as to say that all communicators in general are the result of genetic abnormalities. Well, that's what you can say about any physical or mental aptitude. Well, maybe not the mental ones. Not everyone can be a Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, you know? IGF-2R gene. What determines whether or not somebody is a communicator is the IGF-2R gene. This gene relates to the structure of the brain. Normally, there are 9 types of IGF-2R genes, numbered 1 through 9. But on rare occasion, people are born with a mutant variant form of that gene. And those are communicators? Yes. The tone of Yuri's voice gradually grew dispirited. There are 6 degrees of IGF-2R gene abnormalities. Depending on the extent of variation, IGF-2R genes can also be ranked from type E to type S. As I've explained before, aptitude and resistance are directly proportional, but basically, both things just point to how those IGF-2R genes are mutated variants. That's the truth behind aptitude. IGF-2R gene type E corresponds with rank E aptitude, type D with rank D, all the way to type S with rank S. And the higher one's aptitude, the more severe one's mutation. And the shorter that communicator's lifespan becomes, there's the problem. A chill ran down Natsuhiko's spine. And yet Yuri kept painfully speaking the harsh truth. Communicators are extremely prone to cancer. The same goes for all sorts of neurological diseases. Though they may not show it when they're young, as communicators age, their likelihood of death rapidly increases. So now do you understand what I meant when I said we wouldn't get any worse? We were already burdened with a premature death sentence 9 years ago. Now I see why it would be a bad thing for Mashiro to get upgraded. It's only been 16 years since the Grand Communicator discovery. That's why most people in the world have yet to realize this fact. Most of the scant few communicators who were born before the Grand Discovery have already died. I heard from the professor that your father was also a communicator. Furthermore, he was a rank B aptitude communicator, an even rarer existence at the time. That's why he died at the age of 32. No way. If Labo knows about that truth, then why haven't they announced it? Can they? They haven't even completely figured out the cause of the premature deaths. If they made the announcement regardless, then all the communicators would surely despair of the looming fate of death. Natsuhiko choked on his words. So that means we're already... Even if they escaped from the facility, they still wouldn't have long lives ahead of them. I wonder if that's going to get fixed by the end of this story. Their remaining lives would be shorter than his father's 32 years on this earth. 15 years? 10 years? Just how much longer do we have left to live? Natsuhiko was horribly agitated by the hopeless truth. Feelings of nothingness rended his heart into pieces. He held his head with a trembling hand. But at that moment, he saw a wristwatch in the corner of his eye. Oh yeah, I guess that is why Natsuhiko's mom was researching so desperately. His father's watch. When his mother gave this watch to Natsuhiko, she may have already known about his fate as a communicator. Dr. Tenkawa cried back then, despite rarely ever crying. Natsuhiko felt like that was perhaps the most telling sign of her emotions. And remember when I thought Anna was Dr. Tenkawa? But even so, Dad told me to be strong. He told me to become a man that can protect and support others. His father's final message from that faraway day rekindled in Natsuhiko's mind. Natsuhiko took his crushed spirit and forced it back on its feet. He then looked at Yuri and spoke. Yuri, it's been tough bearing this knowledge of this truth all by yourself, hasn't it? Huh? Hikari, it's not tough for you? Sure, it's a shock to know that you and Mashiro might die premature deaths. That part's a lot tougher than knowing about my own death. But, so what? I can't just give up on life here and now just because of that, you know? It doesn't matter if our remaining life is long or short. Let's just live it all we can. You think so too, don't you, Yuri? That's why you asked me to save you, wasn't it? Would be better to know? Maybe that's what Natsuhiko's mom was researching so desperately. I think, honestly, it's a doomed secret. Because communicators are going to drop like flies at relatively young ages. Almost universally. And people would start to notice. It's only been 16 years, but after a little while, people would start to notice communicators dying. However, taking the time to study it, to try to figure out how to prevent it, well, I hope that's what they're doing here. That's why you asked me to save you, wasn't it? Yes. The anxiety on Yuri's face finally brightened up. Natsuhiko breathed a mental sigh of relief, then spoke up in a firm voice. Then to do that, we need to do something about all the unsolved mysteries. What do you mean by unsolved mysteries? First, the bulkheads. Excuse me, why have the bulkheads remained locked down? Since there's no radioactive material, it wouldn't spread outside even if the bulkheads opened, right? What part of WX particle expulsion was unclear to you? It is radiation, Natsuhiko. Or I should be saying, writers, You've just invented a new form of radiation. WX particles are radiation. Honestly, I'm not quite sure about that myself, but I think it's probably to prevent the test subjects from escaping. Huh? It would be a huge incident if a test subject took advantage of a fire to escape from Labo, right? So you mean Case N refers to a system that prevents your escape, Yuri? No, not just my escape. I think they had another girl in mind, too. Another one? Yuri proceeded to answer Natsuhiko's question without the slightest hesitation. Without the slyest hesitation. Yes, tell me about the child. You know too, don't you, Hikarin? A girl died by the cargo lift. That girl may have been a test subject confined in Labo, just like me. Now that she mentioned it, he remembered. One of the casualties found in the facility had been a lone girl of unknown origin. I've heard that there was another test subject in Labo besides me. She was wearing testing clothes, so I'm sure it was her. Are you sure it was actually her corpse, and she wasn't projecting her dead body into all of your brains? Because there's a serious possibility that that was an illusion. It could have been that she was trying to escape through the cargo lift, and one of the researchers shot her. Could have been Ukita. I've been suspicious about Ukita doing that for a little bit. Would she sense his sympathy, all their brains at once? True. It would take a very powerful, very powerful Esper, but perhaps she's more powerful than Yuri and Natsuhiko. She was wearing testing clothes, so I'm sure it was her. So the bulkheads weren't to prevent just your escape, but hers as well? Yeah, I don't know the reason why the lockdown has gone on for so long. What Yuri didn't know was probably whatever Labo thought would be bad for her to know. What exactly was a Case N? That had been a mystery up until now. In any case, that means the terrorists with Watase got locked in here thanks to that Case N announcement, right? But something about that just doesn't sound right. Perhaps it was a fluke or something. Excuse me. What exactly was their original goal? Judging by Q's ideology and creed, there would probably be no greater target than the world's strongest communicator, Yuri. Do we know that she's the strongest one? And yet Watase said that his goal wasn't to kill Yuri. He injected her with AD and left her where she was. I still don't quite understand what it was the terrorists were thinking. What if you restored Captain Kasasagi's memory? Well, then he'd try to kill us! I probably could if I wanted, but we shouldn't. Before he lost his memory, Watase was homicidal and full of malice. He could very well turn out like that again. In truth, that vast malice had threatened to come back several times already. Just a small peek of the erased memories could potentially cause Watase to become ferocious again. After all, peeking into Watase's memories meant making him remember them. But still, it's weird. What is? After he lost his memories, Captain Kasasagi was such a nice person. He didn't seem like the same man who strangled me at all. True. It may have been because you were inside his mind, though. No, he's still like that. It's probably because this is what he was like before whatever communicator disaster happened in his backstory. True enough, Watase had been straining to save everyone like a true rescue worker. But even if Watase were a good man, the second he regained his memories, he could very well lose that character. But is it okay to leave him as is? How long can we keep him in this unnatural state? Needless to say, it would be difficult. Dr. Tenkawa had said it herself in Yuri's memories. Memories erased with sense of sympathy could return if given the chance. And Watase nearly regained his memories several times. But in that case, what do I do? As soon as that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, they heard a sound from outside the door. "Natsuhiko, it's me. Please open up." "Did you find her?" It was Watase's voice. "Did he bring Salu with him?" Natsuhiko rushed to the keypad beside the door and entered the password, upon which Watase appeared. "Sorry I'm late." Watase spoke sadly as he entered the shelter. And oddly, he was alone. "Captain Kasasagi, where's Salu?" She was gone. "Huh?" "I went to the emergency staircase where she fell, but she wasn't there." Natsuhiko gasped. "Salu disappeared too." Confession. Okay. Astonished by the turn of events, Natsuhiko tried using empathy on Watase. He then heard Watase's mental voice. Did I take too long to get there? She might have already woken up. But where would she go? Watase didn't appear to be lying, which was a relief to Natsuhiko. So basically, Salu probably woke up and went somewhere else, just as Watase had surmised. In that case, I should be able to contact her through telepathy. Natsuhiko tried doing so immediately. "Salu, can you hear me? Please respond mentally if you can. I'll listen for your answer through empathy." And just as he had told her, he then tried using empathy on Salu, but nothing. Huh? No matter how many times he used empathy, he couldn't hear her mental voice. What's going on? Why can't I communicate with Salu? Maybe she found some AD. Was she the one who stole all the AD? Natsuhiko panicked as he tried to think of possible reasons. But there was only one thing he could think of. I see. Salu's probably injected with AD. Now that he thought about it, there were signs that Salu had been injecting herself. Like how they had found empty AD ampules in places where she'd been. Or how she was able to grapple with Watase in the WX particle-contaminated Area N. Salu doesn't know that this place is actually a BC research facility. So she must have read a disaster prevention manual somewhere and kept injecting herself with AD under the belief that it's a radiation inhibitor. But talking about that point with Watase would complicate matters. Natsuhiko concluded that Salu waking up safely meant that she would probably be fine for the time being, so he changed the subject. Do you think Salu felt endangered and hid herself somewhere? I sure hope so, but... Something bugging you? She might be searching for me. Huh? Searching for you. Why? I've said this before, but that girl doesn't trust me at all. She herself told me in Tachibana why. You were unconscious, Natsuhiko, but do you remember hearing that conversation? No. I see. Oh, he knew the answer to that question before he asked it. Watase's expression rapidly became pensive. And the more Watase thought, the more uneasy Natsuhiko got. Say, Natsuhiko, I know both you and that Mashiro girl got shot, but did you happen to see the face of the shooter? No, I didn't. He was hiding his face. Honest? Honest. Why do you ask? Well, you might think it's weird for me to say this, but I can't keep silent about it any longer. Watase drew closer to Natsuhiko and continued. The truth is, these strange images flash before my eyes whenever I see you kids. They're so vivid, like they're my own memories. They're all disturbing images, tinged with rage, fear, and bloodlust. Like me fighting with some sort of monster, or shooting someone from behind. So maybe I don't even want to think about it, but... was I the one who shot you kids? What? Oh, what makes you think that? Salou said that I was a terrorist. That I was the one who shot you. But I tried not to think about it, because I'm supposed to be a rescue squad captain. After hearing everything Tachibana and Moribe said about me, I thought there was no way I could be a terrorist. But what about you, Yuri? You've been afraid of me ever since you first saw me, haven't you? No, that's a lie. Could it have been for the same reason? Because I'm not a rescue squad captain, but a terrorist? Do you kids know who I really was before I lost my memory? Please, tell me. Even Natsuhiko could see just how thoroughly confused Watase was. Watase was probably scared to know the truth. And Natsuhiko was scared to tell it to him. However, we can't keep this up. It doesn't look like we can keep deceiving him like this for much longer. Natsuhiko quietly asked a question. Captain Kasasagi, do you want to regain your lost memories? Both Watase and Yuri's eyes widened at those words. Hikarin, what are you saying? I'm sorry, Yuri. I know what I said earlier, but now that he's noticed, we don't have much of a choice. What are you two talking about? You don't have a choice in regards to what exactly? Don't worry about that now, Captain Kasasagi. Please, answer me. Do you want to regain your memory? Once you do regain your memories, it may very well change who you are. The current Watase, the rescue squad captain who desperately struggled to save everyone's lives, could disappear. Once you learn the truth, your perception of the world could change. Your relations with everyone around us could take an about-face and make enemies out of everyone. And once you know the truth, there's no turning back. Do you still want to regain your memory? Watase silently pondered the question for a moment. Yeah. It answered with a grave voice. I can't stand being in the dark any longer. All right, let's see how this goes. Excuse me. I can't stand considering the possibility that I could be a bad guy when I don't even know what it is I've done. Natsuhiko understood Watase's bitter sentiment. That's right. I thought you'd say something like that. You want proof that your will to save everyone, even at the cost of your own life, is genuine, don't you? And with that consideration, Natsuhiko finally made up his mind. If that's the case, Captain Kasasagi, then allow me to tell you the truth. You still want to regain your memory? Sounds like something out of an RPG where you get like 3 to 4 warnings to confirm a choice. Yeah! I've been lying to you all this time. Your suspicions were correct. The auditory hallucination you've been hearing was indeed my telepathy. Yes, just like this. What? Watase's face froze instantly. Natsuhiko continued as Watase stared at him in total shock. Furthermore, I've been using empathy to listen to your mental voice all this time as well. I've also been sharing your senses. Everything you've seen, I've seen as well. But BC abilities don't stop there. I can manipulate memories. Your memories disappeared because of me. Natsuhiko's words quietly echoed in the still shelter. Oh, I'm Watase now. God, we've cycled through the save list twice now. What? Watase was greatly perturbed by Natsuhiko's declaration. Oh, hey, it's snowing outside. Cool. I can manipulate memories? He would have laughed at the very idea of it during any other circumstances. But there was not a single trace of a lie in Natsuhiko's voice and face at that moment. Is that true? He tried thinking that as a test, only to get an immediate telepathic reply. Yeah, it is. There was no longer any room for doubt. Natsuhiko was reading Watase's mind and talking directly into it. So people like this really do exist? Suddenly, the seemingly normal boy who had been standing before him now looked like a monster wielding a mysterious power in Watase's eyes. And seeing as how she didn't look surprised in the slightest, perhaps Yuri also had the same power. Natsuhiko. Watase called out to Natsuhiko in a shaky voice. If it's true that you erased my memories, then is it possible for you to restore them? Yeah, of course. Then please do it. The key to all these unsolved mysteries should be in my memories. You're probably right, but if I'm going to be totally honest here, I don't want to do it. You understand what I'm getting at? Watase pondered the meaning of those words. Why wouldn't Natsuhiko want to give him back his memories? He could think of only one answer for that. So I really am the one who attacked Natsuhiko and his friends. So he erased my memories and rendered me powerless in order to protect himself. Watase wanted to collapse onto his knees right then and there. If that was true, then that meant the gun Watase had found lying near Natsuhiko in Area N most likely belonged to Watase himself. He'd used it to shoot Natsuhiko and left it there. If his theory was correct, then it explained everything. All the pieces had fallen into place. Shit. Watase gritted his teeth. He had no idea what kind of person he'd been before his amnesia, but there was no doubt he'd been a wicked man. That thought made Watase's heart feel like it would shatter into millions of pieces. Then does that mean I don't have a chance in hell of earning their trust? Trust. That was the one thing Watase wanted more than anything else at the moment. There was absolutely no way he could rescue the ones he wished to save if they didn't trust him. He'd have to show them his resolve in order to gain that trust. Yes, that's right. The resolve to cast away my own life. But how do I show them that the past me and the current me are different? Wait, I know. He absolutely could not put himself above them. Watase then thought about the object in his breast pocket. The pistol. Is he going to give it to Natsuhiko? It was the only way. Natsuhiko. Watase resolved himself and took out the gun. Their faces warped with fright. Natsuhiko stepped forward to protect Yuri. But Watase calmly held out the gun and gently presented it to Natsuhiko. Take this, and then restore my memories for me after that. Huh? Your greatest fear is the chance that I'll attack you guys again once I get my memories back, right? So this is just a precaution. If I try to attack you as soon as I get my memories back, then shoot me down. Don't hesitate. What? It sounds like my old self is a rather untrustworthy son of a bitch. But the current me is probably different. Watase believed that. But nothing he ever said right now could convince them of that, so he had to express himself through actions rather than words. Please, this is the only way I can show you my sincerity. I'd rather die than kill you guys. Captain Kasasagi. The earnesty of his plea seemed to finally draw a hint of trust out of Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko timidly stretched his hand out and took the gun. Natsuhiko grasped the gun tightly and stared at Watase. The man's words and demeanor held not an ounce of insincerity. He really is a good guy deep down. A little awkward, sure, but still good. Natsuhiko found it highly unlikely that merely connecting with Watase's mind could have possibly produced such a noble character. Natsuhiko had always thought that Watase's rebirth from a deranged murderer to a completely different person after amnesia was only a temporary change. That Watase's true character was evil through and through. But now, could it be the opposite? Could it be that Watase's true character is good, and it was the pre-amnesiac Watase that was the temporary one? For some reason, Watase became vicious at the time? Now that he thought about that possibility, it explained a lot. No, wait, it's not just Watase. What if... Hang on. What if Watase and the other terrorists were here to rescue the communicators at the behest of communicators who manipulated their mind? Because he didn't kill Yori. No, wait. It's not just Watase. Come to think of it, June, Miss Tachibana, and Mr. Ukita's sudden abnormal shift in behavior all seem to resemble Watase's character transfiguration. Oh, somebody brain blasted him then. If some external cause is... Whoops. If some external cause is causing everyone to become vicious, then... Doesn't that make Watase just another victim here? Natsuhiko had firmly believed original Watase was vicious terrorist, but now that presumption quickly became suspect. But if that weren't the case, then why did Watase have a gun? If he weren't a terrorist, then there was no way he'd bring a gun into the facility. Who was the true Watase, and how long had he been made vicious? What was his purpose in coming to the facility in the first place? Natsuhiko had the feeling he'd find the answer to all of those questions within Watase's memories. Understood, Captain Kasasagi. I'll restore your memory. Can I count on you? Yes. I'm the one who erased it, so I'll be the one to restore it. Blasted with psychic radiation to turn into a vicious psychic zombie, yeah. When those words left Natsuhiko's lips, Yori gasped and raised her voice. Wait, Hikarin. I'll do it. Right, because Natsuhiko needs to be prepared to shoot him. You? You've never done restoration of erased memories before, have you? I do have some experience with memory fabrication, though. I'll be able to manage. I'm not so sure, so I'll do it instead. No, Yori, it's dangerous. Natsuhiko stubbornly resisted Yori's suggestion. When I dove through Captain Kasasagi's memories before, I was exposed to an enormous malice inside his mind. It was so intense, it felt like it could have corrupted my own mind as well. I can't afford to expose you to that same malice. She's stronger than you are, buddy. No way, but then you'll be the one in danger, Hikarin. No, it's okay, Yuri. I think I'm more resistant to the malice than you are. How would you know that? Yuri grew quiet for a moment, but she eventually made up her mind and spoke up. Then at least allow me to explain the memory restoration process in detail. Alright. There are a lot of things I need to warn you about beforehand. Yeah, please do. Yuri thus began her explanation. First, when you enter Captain Kasasagi's brain, I believe you'll see countless fragments of memories floating around. Yep, been there, done that, passed that step. Those fragments are the visualization of the information that fills the human brain. Natsuhiko had guessed as much. Yuri continued once Natsuhiko nodded to indicate his comprehension. It normally takes a considerable amount of practice to reach the visualization stage, but it seems that you've already reached it. You're a natural. Yeah, when I entered your brain in Mashiro's, I was able to visualize the information. You were, weren't you? So, all of the memories Captain Kasasagi originally had should be found within the visualized brain. The memories you deleted may be fragmented and unrecallable, but they should still be there somewhere. Now that you mention it, Mom also said something like that in one of your memories. But with each memory you see, Captain Kasasagi will remember it too at the same time. So if you want to restore his memory to how it was, you have to perform memory access for all of the memories you erased. Memory access? You take all of the target's memories and focus hard on which subject matter of memories you want to see. Do that, and you'll recompose the fragmented memories and return them back to normal. I know it might sound difficult, but all you really need to do is try to remember the memories you want to see in the same simple way you would try to remember your own memories. Incidentally, when you saw my memories in Mashirome's, you were performing memory access. Huh, was I? Da-da-dum-bum-bum. With Mashirome, you were accessing the memories that pertain to the criterion of why she lied to you. With me, the criteria were probably what happened 9 years ago, and what have I been doing ever since then. I see, so that's what it was. So in other words, what I'm doing is borrowing Captain Kasasagi's brain and getting him to remember his memories himself, huh? Exactly. And that's because you're using sense of sympathy to connect your brains. Excuse me. Which meant that to restore Watase's memories to normal, Natsuhiko just had to do the opposite of what he did when he erased those memories. He had performed memory erasure with the criterion of all the memories composing Watase's personality. So all he needed to do was perform memory access with the same criterion and view those memories. Oh no, hang on. Are we going to get Watase pre-amnesia flashbacks now for a while? Are we going to see what happened to turn him evil? I guess that's interesting, but hopefully it's not as interminable as Route B. Ugh. Got it. Any other key points? When reading memories, try your best to start from the oldest ones first, I guess. Because it's far easier to understand the target's past by going through it in chronological order. Another important point. When you view a target's memories, your impressions influence the memories themselves. They cause subtle changes in the details of the memory, so be careful. The flashbacks would be brand new material, that's true. Subtle changes in the details of the memory. You mean like memory manipulation? It's not exactly on the scale of manipulation, but it's close. For example, let's suppose that in Captain Kasasagi's memory, you meet Lieutenant Tachibana, okay? Okay. If you think I like her at that moment, then it'll give Captain Kasasagi a favorable impression of Lieutenant Tachibana as well. The opposite is possible too. You realize he can hear every word you're saying, right? You mean that even if reality doesn't change, impressions can? Exactly. The images inside the head are ambiguous to begin with, you see. And so the impressions you have will become the truth for the target. Never forget that. Yuri's warning reminded Natsuhiko of the words he'd heard a few days ago. People tend to rewrite their own memories unconsciously. Even if the truth doesn't change, feelings do. There is no absolute truth. The past is a haze of ambiguity. That's what the Phantom Yuri said. And perhaps the same could be said in regards to reading other people's memories. So to objectively learn the truth the way it was, should I try to keep my consciousness as flat as possible when I look through memories? Sounds right. I've tried to do that too for the most part. Those are all the key points. Are you okay so far? Man, this is a fucked up ability that these kids have. Holy shit. Oh wow, it's really coming down outside. Nice. And with that, Natsuhiko mentally sorted through what he was told. So are we going to experience this from Natsuhiko or Watase's perspective? There were 3 things he had to remember. Oh my god, we just heard this! To restore Watase's memory back to normal, Natsuhiko had to access Watase's memories of the past and view them. To best understand Watase, Natsuhiko should read his memories in chronological order, starting from the oldest. Natsuhiko's impressions during sense of sympathy influence Watase's memory. Thus, Natsuhiko should keep his consciousness as flat as possible. Yeah, doesn't seem like there will be any problems. Okay, then last of all, Yuri grasps Natsuhiko's hand. Hikari, even if it looks like you're about to lose to the malice within Captain Kasasagi's mind, I'll be there for you. If you ever feel in danger during sense of sympathy, think of me. When your mind threatens to shatter, that should provide you with salvation. Yuri gazed at Natsuhiko as she spoke anxiously. Her words gave him courage more than anything else. Yeah, glad you have my back, Yuri. Yuri smiled at Natsuhiko. And with the gun gripped in his left hand, Natsuhiko turned back to Watase. And we're going to save. Are we going to... Hang on. Are we going to have a senses... a triple S meter in Watase's flashback? Is that what's being implied? Interesting. Okay. Alright. Well, that's where we're going to save and take a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes, guys. And chat. And game. All right. Let's get back to it. Excuse me. And with the gun gripped in his left hand, Natsuhiko turned back to Watase. Sorry for the wait, Captain Kasasagi. Let's begin work on restoring your memory. Oh, my head is in my hands. I don't want to do more flashbacks. I don't want to do more flashbacks. I want to move the plot forward. Why is this game so in love with flashbacks? Give me a sec, guys. I just need to prep myself. Learning Watase's backstory would indeed move the plot forward in some ways. But we'd still be frozen at this point in time. I liked Route A. I liked Route A a lot. Route B was excruciating. Route C was cool. I just need a sec, guys. Sorry. It hadn't sunk in over the course of the break what I was about to experience. In flashbacks, nobody can hear you scream. Oh, God. Okay. All right. At least the music's good right now, so I'm not leaving you guys with nothing. This game has given Laura a trauma response to flashbacks. Oh god, it kind of has, actually. It's just that the flashbacks are interminable. They're so long. All right. Okay, let's get to it. Sorry for the wait, Captain Kasasagi and chat. Let's begin work on restoring your memory. Yeah, I'm ready when you are. Watase seemed nervous, as he should be. Natsuhiko walked up to him. Here we go. And activated senses sympathy. At that moment, Natsuhiko's brain connected to Watase's. Countless visions flickered in the darkness in the same way they did when Natsuhiko saw Yuri and Mashiro's memories. Those visions were all probably Watase's memories. First up is memory access. Let's access all of the memories comprising Watase's original personality. That is, all the memories related to this incident. Natsuhiko recalled. In order to resurrect Watase's lost memory, remember the past of Watase Kasasagi. Remember all of the memories that shaped his personality. Once Natsuhiko concentrated on that desire, several memories floated up from the darkness. Here we go! I just need to view these all one by one. With that in mind, Natsuhiko peeked into the oldest of these memories. To when he was a baby! It was clearly different from the simple senses sympathy that Natsuhiko had been using on Watase before. Visions like that of a dream long forgotten appeared to him. Those were Watase's memories, the ones Natsuhiko had sealed away to protect Mashiro. Natsuhiko looked at the oldest memory Watase had that was relevant to this incident. Is this from when Watase was back in high school? Just like when he checked Yuri's memories, he knew that for a fact without anyone telling him. It was, oh God, oh, we're going so far back. Oh, no, 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 no! We're gonna watch his whole fucking life. Oh, God. Okay, it was a memory of 16 years ago, when Watase was just 16 years old. That day, Watase had been quietly reading a book in his room as he listened to classical music, which is a thing that 16-year-olds do. Okay. And along with that sense of nostalgia, he heard her cheery voice play back in his ears. Wataru! Watase! Don't give me this cheering music, Root Double. Oh, we're trapped in flashback hell for another 3 hours, aren't we? Oh, no. Watase's calm, relaxing time was completely annihilated by that voice. Oh, great. Her again? Watase turned around to see a girl whose face resembled his own. Wataru! Oh, come on, Wataru. I don't think the whole neighborhood quite heard that one. Something up? Look outside. Isn't the weather just wonderful? I look outside and it's driving snow. Huh. Oh, wait, that's it? Quit burying your head in those textbooks and come outside and play with me. No, playing outside, just because the weather's nice, is something kids do. Oh, don't be a spoil sport. You're going to grow mold if you stay cooped up in this room forever. Wataru forcefully pried Watase away from his desk. Hey. Okay, so his sister died as a result of a communicator event? Maybe? Hey. Come on, let's get a move on. We're going to go to the city, so hurry up and get your things. That is a very pretty shade of blue her eyes are. Okay, fine. Just give me a sec. Watase tried resisting her for a short while, but he soon caved in. He knew better by now than to go against Wataru whenever she wanted to do something. Hey, wait, hang on. It's reusing the Rokume City background. The gentle sunlight bathed the city streets. Watase and Wataru walked side by side in that weather. It really is such a nice day, huh? Feels like the whole world's shining. I guess. Watase replied to Wataru's overjoyed voice with an apathetic mutter. Though she was his older twin sister, and had almost the exact same face as him, their personalities could not be any more different. Watase was an indoors person who liked spending his days off reading books. Hence why the only reason he was out of the house right now was because Wataru had taken him out around town. So why'd you want to go to the city? Need to do something here? Nah, just figured I'd go look and see if there was anything I could get for you. Just got my latest paycheck from my part-time job, but it's on me. Oh, then maybe some paperbacks from the bookstore would be nice. No and no. That'd kill the whole purpose of me treating you. We need something that we'll actually have fun buying. I have fun buying books. I know. How about your big sis picks out some clothes for you? All right. Natsuko thinks that's pretty familiar. Huh, no, you don't need to. Why not? You've actually got some nice looks to start out with, so you can't let it go to waste by being plain all the time. Is that your subtle way of complimenting yourself? I guess you could look at it that way too. Wataru walked with a clear destination in mind as they had that talk. She took Watase to a cheap, trendy clothes shop and bought him all sorts of clothes. They left the store with Watase covered in his new apparel and with Wataru looking at him approvingly. That is not an approving look. Yeah, it's perfect. You're looking pretty sharp there, if I do say so myself. Think so? Watase had never been particularly mindful of what he wore. He just didn't think it was all that important. Whatever. Anyway, I'm starving. Let's get a bite to eat. Okay then, but it's on you this time, you hear? I'm at a grocery store with limited internet access right now for a few minutes, so if you need to stop the stream for any reason, presume my answer is yes, and we'll hash out details later. No, I'm good to plow through the flashback for a bit. If it's a really long one, I may stop early, but we're not stopping yet. Okay then, but it's on you this time, you hear? Oh, fine, I guess I can do that. Yay! Then let's go to the usual pasta joint. Cheering happily, and with a skip in her step, Wataru walked off. Watase followed behind her languidly. But are you sure you want to be spending your Sunday hanging out with your brother? Why not? It's a really beautiful day, and it's the weekend. You don't have a boyfriend or anything? Oh, I don't need someone like that. Not when I've got my cute little brother. Ugh. Hey, what's with that reaction? That ain't cute at all. Watase let out a wry laugh at Wataru's melodramatic voice. The twins then finished eating. They checked the bookstore afterwards and looked at some new novels. And before they knew it, the sun was coming down. It's gonna get dark real soon. Shouldn't we be heading home? Yeah, we left without telling Mom and Dad a thing, after all. The twins decided to walk home to save money on bus fare. And on their way home, Wataru suddenly shouted as they passed the fire department. Oh, are you a rescue worker because your sister thought they were cool? Ah, Watase, look at that! Watase looked into the station to see men wearing orange uniforms coming out. Who are they? Looks a bit too snazzy to be firefighters. They're a rescue squad. A rescue squad? Our city has one of those? Nope. They were probably just sent in from Tokyo or somewhere to give our firefighters some disaster prevention training. Huh. So what's the big deal about them? What do you mean, what's the big deal? They're so cool! Huh? Oh, so you're into macho men like that? No, she's into macho women. No, not that. I'm strictly talking about their job, not their appeal as men. They go through hell and high water all to save lives. I really look up to people like that. Really? But there's no female rescue workers out there now, huh? If possible, I'd like to be one. Aw. No wonder Watase hired women. What? That's news to me. You want a crappy job like that? Hey, don't call it a crappy job. It's a wonderful line of work, where I risk my life every day. For adrenaline. Sorry, tongue slipped. But a rescue worker, huh? Watase carefully looked Wataru over. You'd best start working out, you twig. She certainly had the attitude, but she wasn't all that good at sports. I think it'll be tough for you. Won't know until I actually make it to that point. I'll think about that stuff after I become one. I'm worried about if you can become one. Hey, it's in really bad taste to stomp on people's dreams. Don't you have a dream? Not really. Huh? Man, you're a real lonely boy, you know that? I think my dream as a kid... I think for a while I wanted to be an astronaut. But then I stopped. Okay, I wanted to be an astronaut, and I really applied myself until 8th grade. Because I spent 5th through 8th grade in a really good local Catholic school that had teachers that really knew what they were doing. And they taught science and math and English very well. And I actually got most of the way through high school math by the time I finished 8th grade. Because the nun who taught math was really, really cool and individually taught each of us. And then I got to high school, and the high school made me start high school math over. And I'm a little ashamed to say it, but I kind of gave up paying attention because, like, I had to... It felt like all my work had gone to waste, and I was just repeating stuff that I'd already done, and I spent the rest of high school... kind of slacking off. Then I enlisted when I was like 19 because I thought that was the only real way I could get a good college education, considering my grades were mediocre. And fortunately, I washed out of basic because they diagnosed me with asthma, and you're not allowed to be in the military with asthma. Because in case you get tear gassed or whatever, that can kill you. In fact, at the end of basic, I was told they dose you with a little bit of tear gas so you know what it's like. And asthmatics can just straight up die during that little session. So then I drifted a bit. I was a telemarketer for a bit. Then I got dumped by a girl I was in love with. I went comatose for a couple of weeks, woke up and said, okay, I'm going to college. Went to a community college in Bangor, got a computer systems technology degree that I have barely used at all since I graduated college. Got a telemarketing job. And then, in 2015, on my Tumblr dashboard, people would not shut up about this show called Steven Universe. And I thought, you know what? I've live blogged a bit before, and I want to see what this show's about. I'm going to live blog Steven Universe. And the rest is history. And that's how I got where I am today. In 2016, I had my sinus surgery, quit my telemarketing job, and went full-time with the blog and streaming. And here we are today, 8 years later. Next year will be the 10th, September 13th, 2025 will be the 10th anniversary of Loreweaver Universe. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. I've come a long way. Honestly, when I was a little kid, I might have dreamed of playing video games for a living. I don't remember. I don't know if I ever really thought about it like that. My mom is so mad that I do this for a living, because when I was a kid and I wanted to play video games all the time, she would tell me, you can't get a job playing video games, Will. Like, it's not going to happen. You have to apply yourself in school and do your homework and study and read. And here I am, 30 years later, playing video games for money. And honestly, I don't make a lot of money doing this. I get $700 a month. It's enough to pay my rent and my bills for the one room I rent and have a little bit of spending money, but it's not much. But honestly, I would rather do what I do and starve than go back to being a telemarketer. Like, seriously. I love my job. Huh? Man, you're a real lonely boy, you know that? Can't blame me on that one. The world's in recession. Japan's hitting a dead end. Future's not looking all that bright. This game takes place in what, 2032? You're overthinking things, Watase. Do that and you'll just wuss out to the point where you won't be able to make sense of anything anymore. You really think so? Personally, I think it'd be better for you to think a bit before you act. He'd rather not be thinking along the same lines as her. But Wataru paid no heed to Watase's disapproval, and she lifted her hand in the air. Okay, I've made up my mind. Running training starts tomorrow. Sure, sounds nice. Try to stick with this one longer than 3 days. Why are you talking like you're not a part of this? You're gonna train with me. He did not volunteer for that. Huh? Why me? Because it'll last longer with 2 people, right? Besides, it's the perfect way to get your scrawny body into shape, right? Sounds like a total pain in the ass. I should start Ring Fit Adventure again, once I have more room. But as usual, Wataru wouldn't change her mind, no matter what he said. And she was right that Watase was out of shape. Okay, fine, I'll train with you. But only for a little while. Yay! See, this is what brothers are for. Wataru let out a smile filled with happiness from the bottom of her heart. What she had talked about may not have been enough to call a dream, but it was a fact that she was looking forward to her own future. Her innocent and pure hopes for her future. Having nothing like that at all, Watase couldn't help but be a little jealous of his sister. After Wataru suggested that the two of them start running we're going through his whole fucking life. Alright. Start running together. Watase obeyed his sister's wishes and trained with her. That said, there wasn't much of a system to it aside from run to some random spot in the city. 3 months had passed since then. Watase and Wataru were running together on that Sunday morning to train up their stamina. They had run about 3 kilometers away from their house when... Watase, wait up! Wataru cried out to him. What's this? Need to take a break already? Boy, how lame. Watase stopped in his tracks, only to immediately hear his sister speak between her gasps for air. This isn't fair. How is there already such a huge gap in our stamina, even though we have the same face and do the same training? Hell if I know. Could be our difference in gender. Or maybe it's because we came from different eggs. I refuse to accept that. Well, anyway, I guess I am a bit thirsty, so sure, let's take a little break. I don't see why not. Yay! The twins walked up to a nearby vending machine and bought sports drinks. They rested up as they drank them down, only to hear strange voices from somewhere. Citizens of Rokame, lend me your ears. Oh, this is Rokame. Okay. We are the citizen group known as the Anti-BC League. What's all the commotion? They looked to the direction of the voices to find men in suits standing in front of a building. One of them was giving some sort of speech with a megaphone in hand. "We are the voices of all who object against the managers of the PRC. We, the people, have been forced to pay heavy taxes, all in the name of researching this dubious technique known as BC. Are you content with turning a blind eye from this transgression without sufficient representation?" The man was shouting while facing the people walking down the street. No, facing the large building not too far from him. It was a big research facility that had been built nearly 2 years ago. It was the Rokamei City Parapsychology Research Center, or PRC for short. "We've been there." It appeared they were giving a speech condemning the facility right in front of it. "The hell's this? What are they whining about?" "Oh, there must be that BC rejection citizen group that's been troubling the city recently." "BC? You've never heard of it? It was all over the news. A little while back, they scientifically proved that psychic powers like telepathy really exist. It seems that such abilities like sending your voice to a faraway person or reading someone's mind were given the general term BC." "Oh yeah, I think I did hear about that." Watase didn't watch TV, nor did he browse the internet all that much. What kind of kid are you? Thus, he only had a scarce knowledge of topics he wasn't all that interested in. So how exactly did they prove that this BC stuff actually exists? Let's see. Well, it started 2 years ago when a French scientist accidentally discovered the way in which a person's genes determine if they're capable of using psychic powers. Well, people thought his theory was total BS at first. But early this year, the research team in the PRC made a great discovery that supported his theory. What great discovery? They discovered elementary particles, now known as BC particles, that convey people's mental voices. Huh. Mental voices, huh? The PRC was in a huge uproar after that. They said it was a discovery that completely revolutionized the world of science, and that they would put all their efforts into researching it. The Rokamei City Council backed them up by deciding to invest truckloads of the city's budget into their research. Huh. Watase kept responding disinterestedly. He found it somewhat comical how adults were getting so worked up over the research of something as much of an enigma as ESP. So that's what they do at this huge place? Watase looked towards the PRC as he thought that, only to see a person in the facility. Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa. What? Excuse me? Okay, no, that's not Salu 16 years ago. Okay. A young woman was standing at a window on the 3rd floor. A blonde. Is she a foreigner? She looked down at the citizen group with dull eyes as they gave their speech. The group continued to give their soapbox speech in a voice loud enough for the woman to hear it. BC users from all over the globe, known as communicators, have been gathering in our city ever since this spring due to the PRC's research. But where did the budget required to invite them all come from to begin with? Is there even a need for this sort of research to be conducted in our beloved Rokamei City to begin with? Well, we've got a message for you. Rokamei City does not need a BC research center. We cannot acknowledge communicators as official citizens without discussion. Watase felt exasperated at their hysteric cries. But why are these guys getting so mad? The research at the PRC and the gathering of espers has nothing to do with them. Well, they give all sorts of reasons, but to be honest, they're probably just bigots. I think it's because they're basically scared of those people. Scared? Why? Because a whole lot of communicators, people who can use BC that is, have been coming to this city. And the city's conducting research these people really don't understand. But why is it such a big deal for them? Well, the thing is, there have been these BC-related incidents happening from time to time in other countries. For example, there have been cases of people in England and France burning down communicators' homes. Horrible incidents like that. You shitting me? So ordinary people afraid of psychics attack the psychics themselves? Sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel. It's already the 21st century. Hard to believe that kind of stuff is happening for real. But when he thought about it carefully, Watase found that he understood why people would be so afraid of mind readers. In more religious countries, those espers could perhaps even be seen as servants of the devil. Scared, huh? And it also sounded like Rokume City and the PRC were gathering those communicators for their research. All while barely explaining a thing to the townspeople, including Watase. Okay, you can't say including Watase, because you have deliberately not been paying attention, Watase. Well, I guess I can kind of see where that citizen group's coming from. Huh? Hold on, you serious? Well, yeah. I mean, don't you feel uncomfortable about guys who can read your mind being all around the city? Your privacy will go straight to hell. You can forget about having any perverted fantasies. Ha! Oh, so you have perverted fantasies, huh? No, I don't. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that they don't have to do that kind of research in our city. I don't really care if espers actually exist or not, but I'd prefer if they all gathered in any city other than Rokume. Wataru did not look pleased at all by what Watase was saying. I'm surprised. I never thought you were so narrow-minded. Is she an esper? When it comes down to it, communicators are just ordinary people like us, aren't they? So there's no real harm in them gathering here. Yeah, I'm thinking that was either Salu's mom or Salu, and she's just had like weird memory reconstruction and she's an immortal child or something. But no, that can't be it. That's got to be Salu's mom or something, because okay, so every time I come up with a more out there theory about this game, tulpas and other things like that, the game just answers me with a mundane answer. And so that can't be Salu 16 years ago. That's got to be Salu's mom. When it comes down to it, communicators are just ordinary people like us, aren't they? So there's no real harm in them gathering here. Rokume cities are calm and peaceful city, so if communicators who were persecuted in their home countries could gather here, then... No, see, that's my point. It's because Rokume is such a peaceful city that having these potentially problematic guys come here is an issue. Jeez, Watase, quit overthinking all this, you coward. Wataru said that and turned away in a huff. And here comes the sulking. What's gotten into you? Why are you siding with the communicators so much? Because I feel bad for them. Don't you? I mean, it's not like they chose to be born as communicators. Yet they all get picked on just because they're different from ordinary people. That just makes me want to protect them. Nightingale complex. Okay. And here we go. Your savior complex is rearing its head again. They call that the Florence Nightingale complex. Hang on. Okay. So, something wrong with that? That's just the way I am. I mean, that's also basically why I want to be a rescue worker. No, not saying anything's wrong with it, but in that case, why do you want to be a rescue worker? Well, I guess the actual reveal of Yuri being alive and messing with memories is not mundane either, but it's certainly less interesting to me than if Natsuhiko created a Yuri tulpa from all the WX particles in the air. Wouldn't you be better suited as a nurse or something? The twins felt very comfortable with each other, so Watase had no problem bluntly speaking his mind to Wataru. They always had these kinds of conversations, so Wataru answered him without sounding hurt in the slightest. Well, even I think this is rather simplistic, but there's something I want to be. I know, a rescue worker, right? No, a hero! Zack Fair perks up. No, how do I put it? Actually, I want to be a hero of justice. A hero of justice? Watase stared at Wataru in wonder from her sudden confession. Are rescue workers really heroes of justice? Well, this isn't really related to that group, but there are all different kinds of justice in the world, aren't there? Whoa, where'd all this come from? Just hear me out. Anyway, that group considers taking action against BC as justice in their own eyes, right? Yeah. On the other hand, the people of the PRC probably believe that researching BC is just. We all have our own personal sense of justice, communicator or not. When you take everyone's definitions of justice into account and empathize with all those people, you can no longer tell what's just and what's evil. Well, that's because you have a habit of empathizing with others right away. You even cry when you watch movies and whatnot. I've cried at movies. I cried at the end of Terminator 2. I don't know if I've ever cried at another movie besides Terminator 2, but I have sobbed at video games. Like, the final hour of each of the To the Moon games that I've streamed was me openly weeping. God, what a good time that was. Play To the Moon and its sequels. Please, please do. They're cheap, they're good, they're in my top 10 games of all time. Well, like collectively, as one entry, they're in my top 10 games of all time. Because I think they're really one conversation, one ongoing story. That's right, but no matter what, the act of saving people, regardless of their value systems and personal definitions of justice, that's got to be just any way you look at it, right? Yeah, probably. Saving someone's life means protecting their future. I just find that to be so incredibly noble, which is why I want to be a rescue worker. Well, it's just an idea. I guess I could be a firefighter or a nurse if all that matters is me having a job that involves saving lives. Watase watched his sister bashfully speak before he muttered in approval. I see. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. So you understand? Yeah, I think it's admirable. There's just one thing bugging me. Did it have to be a rescue worker of all things? Hate to say it, but you've got horrible stamina and your reflexes suck. If you ever became a rescue worker, you'd be more likely to die before you could save anyone. Foreshadowing! Well, maybe, but I make up for what I lack in strength with passion and spirit. I bet even a total dunce like me could do something if I just work myself to the bone and keep running forward. Work myself to the bone. Wataru, It's the feeling that counts. The feeling that my own life means nothing if it can be used to protect other lives. That is not how you want to think of it. Hey, hold on, Wataru. Watase interrupted his sister with a bit of force in his voice. Quit saying stupid shit like my own life means nothing. Our old man and lady would cry if they ever heard that. Also, me, your twin brother. Wataru gasped at the suddenly serious tone and speech her brother had adopted. You're right. I'd really hate to make Mom sad in particular. Well, of course. Watase and Wataru were fraternal twins, but they'd heard that their delivery had been quite the difficult one, naturally. So much so that their mother's life had been in danger for a little while. It was for that reason that their parents showered them with love once they'd been safely born. Thus, it was only natural that Watase got angry about Wataru talking about her own life like it was nothing. Okay, I'll stop talking about my life so lightly. Yeah, that's better. But I won't give up on my dream of working to protect lives. At any rate, if your life was ever in grave danger, I'd save you in a heartbeat, even if it cost me my life. What? Weren't you listening to what I just said? The old lady would cry if she ever... We were both born from her, so there's nothing wrong with at least protecting each other, is there? And besides, I am your big sis, remember? Watase just shook his head in exasperation when he saw Wataru's beaming smile. Well, I just hope that day never comes. Yeah, knock on wood. The twins smiled at each other. Okay, I think we've cooled down 100%. Should we continue running? Sure, race you back home. Sound good? The loser has to treat the winner to ice cream. Quit while you're ahead. You'll never keep up that bet. They said that and started running back towards their home. The apartment they lived in came into view after they'd run for about 2 kilometers. Watase and Wataru had been keeping up side by side, but... I'll be going on ahead now. Wataru suddenly dashed ahead as she said that. You got too cocky, Watase. That ice cream's all mine. What? Hey, no fair! Watase then sped up in an attempt to catch up to her. But then a car... Oh no. This is where it's happening? But then a car suddenly sped down onto the street from a side road. Wataru froze in shock. The driver slammed the brakes, but the car kept skidding towards Wataru without stopping. That thing's gonna run her over! Watase's body sprung into action the moment that thought crossed his mind. Wataru! Ah! Watase dashed towards Wataru with the force of a speeding bullet and pushed her aside. I guess she's not dying here. A second later, he felt an impact run near his thighs. Watase was sent flying by the car and soon crashed into the pavement. I got hit by a car once. One of the proudest moments of quick thinking that I've ever had was not the fact that I jumped and slid across its hood. It was that I landed, got up, turned around, walked up to their window, and said, "Are you okay?" Yeah, ugh. Watase groaned as he laid face up in the street. His line of sight was completely filled with the beautiful orange sky. Watase! He heard Wataru crying out to him from somewhere. He then heard a car door opening, followed by the voice of a man who was apparently the driver. This is bad. Call an ambulance. Watase's gonna die. If it had been under any normal circumstances, Watase would have let out a sigh of exasperation at her cries. I ain't gonna die, but my leg does hurt like hell. He didn't feel he was in any danger of dying. But though his leg hadn't hurt all that much at the moment of the impact, it had suddenly started to seethe with intense pain. And he went into shock. His mind was growing fuzzy. Perhaps he'd suffered a concussion. The ambulance is on its way, so don't die, Watase. Huh, what was all that I'd save you in a heartbeat, even if it cost me my life BS about? I was the one who ended up saving you. Some rescue that was. And as he thought all that, Watase lost consciousness. After having saved Wataru from being run over by a car, Watase was hospitalized with a broken right femur. Though he was grateful to have his own room, thanks to the large sum the driver had paid as reparations, it seemed that Wataru had been more hurt by the incident than Watase. Oh. Das Lied der Trennung, the song of parting. I'm so sorry, Watase. This is all my fault. Wataru burst into tears when she came to visit Watase and saw the cast the hospital had set on his leg. Watase spoke with a wave of the hand. Nah, don't worry about it. It's just a broken leg. There doesn't seem to be any permanent damage. I see. That's good to hear. Oh, wait, no, not good, but... Wataru let out a heavy sigh. Why is it that all I do is cause trouble whenever I try to do something? You must hate having such a dumbass for a big sis, don't you? Seriously, that's not true at all. Watase spoke encouragingly to the totally dispirited Wataru. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's no fun seeing you so depressed. Besides, I was the one who voluntarily ran with you, so it's my fault that I got hurt. But you should stop forcing yourself to come. I mean, I know you think it's a total pain in the ass. Well, at first I did, yeah, but not anymore. Now I want to try and help you accomplish your dream. Huh? Watase gave his sister a faint smile when he saw the stunned look on her face. It doesn't matter what your physical abilities are. You're still amazing. You have big dreams about getting a job that'll let you save lives. I'm a little jealous of you. I don't have anything like that at all. There are things I can do, but I don't have anything I want to do. But you're the complete opposite. You find what you want to do, and you put everything you've got into it. Even though your motive was just a spur-of-the-moment idea, you've been running every day for 3 months because of it. You're confident in yourself and don't hesitate to act. So I felt that if I kept on hanging out with you, I might find something like that too. No way. That's the way you've been thinking? Yeah, kinda. So you're jealous of a weak little thing like me. Wataru let out an embarrassed laugh, then looked at Watase and spoke. But you know, I'm sure that you'll find something you want to do too, sooner or later. You really think so? I just know you're the kind of kid who can do anything he wants to, as long as you act before you think about every little thing, that is. And now he throws himself into situations without thinking about it. Aren't you the one who should think a little more before you act? I've already considered that, you know. Watase sighed when he heard that. But hey, thanks. Though I think the whole looking for something I want to do thing will have to wait for after my leg heals up. That's true. I'll come visit you every week until then. No, thanks. Oh, come on. I'd feel bad if I didn't, seeing as how you don't have a girlfriend to do that for you. What? You're the one who needs to hurry up and get a boyfriend already. The twins then shared a laugh. The two of them chatted for a little while longer, and then the time came for Wataru to leave. Okay then, I should probably be heading home for today. Yeah, tell the old man and lady I said hi. Alright, okay then, see you later. And then she got hit by a car on the street outside the hospital. Wataru then turned to leave the room. She looked so lonely from behind that Watase called out to her one more time. Wataru. Yeah? Let's start running again once my leg heals up. If you'd like, I'll keep doing that with you until you become a bona fide rescue worker. Wataru smiled brightly at that suggestion. Thanks, Watase. Wataru finally left the room with those words. And thus, Watase's peaceful life at the hospital went on for a while after that. It was a fairly simple life, where he just spent his time either attending to people who came to visit him, or just eating, reading, and sleeping when alone. But one night, 8 days after Wataru had come to visit him, something unexpected happened. Let's save. Let's save. Okay. I need a sec. Because I can see the whole of Watase's life laid out in front of me. Flashback after flashback after flashback. And I need a moment to deal with that. We're still in the first flashback. And it's been like 40 minutes. Oh, no. Yeah, I need a sec. Man, my eyesight is really garbage. My microphone's like 1.5 feet from my face, and I can't read the words on it when I take my glasses off. So, Shy, I owe you a bunch of extra time. I'm thinking instead of doing Persona 3 Reload in January, I might work on your time if you have the time. Like if you have time when days are available. So if I don't do the full 10 this month, that'll just add time onto that, I guess. Your work's on strike. Oof. You getting paid by the union? What do you do for a living? As long as I show up for at least 4 hours, I get $100 a day. Damn, nice. Work the post office. Cool. Cool. All right, yeah, I think between scenes here is where we're going to end for the day. Because I don't want to shit on this game, but there's only so much of this game I can take in a row before I get frustrated and worn out. And it is hours straight reading every word that comes up. So yeah, let's end here, and we'll pick this back up on the 19th. It looks like. So yeah, that's where we're gonna end for today. So I will read my schedule and get off. Let me see here. Tomorrow, Path of Exile 2 comes into early access. 2 p.m. EST is when I have on my schedule. I will be starting slightly before that so that I'll be starting slightly before that so that I have time for the stream to start and I can hopefully get into the queue right when it opens. And I'll be streaming a lot of it in the following week. Saturday will, of course, be our weekly Final Fantasy XIV stream. Sunday through Wednesday, I have blocked out for more Path of Exile 2. We'll see how much of that I actually need. And, yeah, we'll see. Next Thursday will be The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, second chapter. And next Friday, I will be continuing UFO 50 for a patron. So that's what's coming up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.